Today we are going to go over where is the love. Many times, whether we go to church, whether we're in an assembly, it seems like no matter where we go to, that there's love missing. I think a lot of people are missing the whole point of love, the whole point of what's supposed to go on, and what love actually is. Love can be in various stages and forms. If you have a baby, you love your baby. You don't bring violence and things to a baby. But as they get older, you're trying to teach them, you're trying to help them, you're trying to chastise them at some points in time. Whether we like that or not has nothing to do with it. The whole point is you're trying to teach them not to do something, right? Don't run in the road. Don't run on train tracks. Don't, you know, hold your head down. Pay attention to what's going on in life. Because when we don't pay attention to what's going on in life, what happens? Well, I think we pretty much know what happens. We get in some serious trouble. We find ourselves in serious trouble. And in that serious trouble, bad things happen. And what's sad about it is a lot of people, when you tell them what's going on, when you try to tell them what's happening, when you try to explain to them what's going on, some of them get upset and they don't understand that is love, right? The same way that children they don't understand why mommy or daddy is upset with them. Why are they doing? But we see the Father says he chastises those he loves. It may be a cold, it may be the flu, it may be a dreaded disease, it may be something, but how else can he get your attention? The same thing with a child. Hey, stop that. And some children just will not pay attention whatsoever, right? Big deal. What's that got to do with anything? So if we're not careful, we miss that love, right? We miss what is happening there. Shalom, my brother. Welcome. We have to understand what is going on to get that love. And I think a lot of the world does not understand a loving kindness. I don't think they understand a Moshe. I don't think they understand a Paul. I don't think they understand the way that love is dealt out is not always, the way they say, well, God is love. Yes, that's correct. But you have to remember Yahweh destroyed and will destroy, and he will send the destroyer. You have to always remember Sodom and Gomorrah. You have to remember Pharaoh and his army. You have to remember there's two sides to that, right? There's the good and the bad. And the bad, no matter how much they call themselves good, are still bad. That makes sense? So no matter how much they say this Sunday school's for the children's, or no matter how much they say these things are for this or for that, that sounds great. But let's go over what is this love? What is this word? What are we dealing with? And what should it look like? Because everywhere we go, we hear God is love. Everywhere we go, love thy neighbor as thyself. No matter what church, what place, what assembly you go to, we run into the same thing, correct? Exact same thing. Let all that you do be done in love. And I would submit to you 90% of the world right there, churches included, are not there. And I'm not trying to be mean or condescending or anything. I'm just being honest. 90%, if not more, of the churches, so-called assemblies, lose out terribly right here in this verse. There's no sense of going on with most churches because they're not doing this. They're not doing everything in love. They're not keeping their service in love. They don't keep their assembly in love. They sure don't keep the week in love. Half of them can't get through an hour service without being mad at each other or saying something hateful or, right? And they use it, if you've ever been to church, which I'm sure you probably have for most people, They use the pulpit, they use the crowd, they use this, they use that, and they say, oh, well, well, Bobby over there, if he had ever apologized to me for, and even assemblies, they're talking about stealing grills and stealing things and breaking commandments. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, am I really listening to this? Is this really in a so called assembly? Let all that you do be done in love. And again, we have to reassure ourselves that sometimes it always doesn't feel like love, right? If your wife caught you down in the bar and she said, what are you doing? You probably wouldn't feel real loved by her. You probably may not feel like, oh my goodness. But really, that's what she's saying, is she not? That she loves you enough that she wants you to go home. She wants you to be with her. She wants you to be a part of her life. If she didn't love you, she'd have drove on by and went somewhere else and did something else. Correct? So sometimes when we see love in action, it's totally different than what we see in the book, right? And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. Colossians 3 and 14. No matter what we say, no matter what we do, the world knows, our family knows, people know. Now, a lot of people will take this abusive, right? I mean, a lot of people, sadly, they're going to take this as, and I'm not saying this, but I'm saying that they will take it as a pushover, right? It's something that a pushover. Well, I can push this person over. I can make this person because of love, is what I'm saying. A lot of people, when they love wholeheartedly. When we give our all, and even if it's to Yahweh, we're loving our brother and sister, sometimes that hurts, right? Sometimes we don't get that love back. But this doesn't say, make sure you get your love back. Make sure that they pat you on the back. Make sure that they, bind you up a trophy. It doesn't say that. It says you love them, right? So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is love. Because love conquers all. If it wasn't for love, there would be no Yeshua. There would not be. There just wouldn't. I mean, that's just facts and proofs, whether we like it or not. But there would be no Yeshua without the love of Yahweh. Right? I mean, that we have to put it all together. It can't be a picture without it all together. Because Yahweh loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. It goes together perfectly, right? Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Again, right here, John 15 and 13, perfectly scripture, biblical, Yeshua. Greater love has no one than to give their life or to give their son or to give. And we have a problem giving our time. We have a problem giving our this. We have a problem being respectful to one another. There's very few, sadly, there's very few assemblies or churches that I go to that you see respect and kindness. You don't see it very rarely from the so-called pastor, the bishops, the boards. They don't seem to have to speak to each other in respectful, right? The pastor, everybody better call the pastor. But the deacon, the elder, the bishop, they're just kind of, hey, guy, come here. It's like, well, that's kind of a two-way street. Isn't love go back and forth? If you're the pastor of the church, if you're the, would you just be like, hey, you come here and do this? Well, that's not very loving kind. It doesn't even sound very loving kind. And the world sees this. The world picks up on that because the world knows hate, and they know when they're offended. And a lot of the world, I would submit to you, are part of the world because they have been offended by church and people of the church. And they want nothing to do with any church because they know how that system works. And a lot of it's a clique. A lot of it's a part of, hey, if you're a part of this, you're a part of that. you work out. Or if you pay, of course, your tithes, right? If you get, it depends on how much you make and where you work. If you're a doctor, you're the most loved guys in some of the churches. Exactly what the scripture says not to do. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. See, what we have to understand is when these disciples and when Yeshua came, you understand how patient he was with these people? People look at us or look at this or look at someone, oh my gosh, you're so rough and you're so this and you're so, because you're trying to fight the same fight that they are, and you're trying to tell them the things that you know saves them, right? If you go to somebody and say, don't eat decon, and they get mad at you, you think they're absurd. They think you're absurd for telling them what to do. But you're telling them, don't eat decon. It's poison. What's wrong with you? I'll eat anything I want to. Okay, but I'm just letting you know. Well, don't tell me what to do no more. But this, sadly, is what the so-called church or assembly has become. It's become nobody can tell nobody what to do because nobody teaches anybody. Nobody does anything. And it's all just a big old smashed potato gossip hour of things. And on we go. But a lot of people never get the love. They never get the kindness. They never see this. And again, I would submit a lot of people are out of church altogether because there's nothing there. There's no love there for them. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And this, my brothers and sisters, is a biggie. Believes all things. This is where a lot of people go wrong. This is where a lot of people go into different things. You know why? Because they believe you, right? I don't know how many so-called believers believe you. Believe, right? Hey, we're going to meet Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Okay. I'm trusting you're going to be there. I'm going to turn on my camera and we're going to go at it. Whoops, you never showed up. Hey, how about Friday night? We have a fellowship. Oh, I'm going to be there. I'm going to bring the whole crew. Going to be 20 or more. See, love believes that. Just like Yahweh believes you. You may not know that or not, but Yahweh believes you. He wants to believe you. He loves you so much, he wants to believe you are going to do what you said you're going to do. Right? That's what it says. He says you keep a vow, you make a vow, you keep your vow. It doesn't say just break it. Thou shalt not lie. But again and again, what we have is, well, the cat got sick, the canary got ate, you know, the sun Connor flew out the window, and a lot of things that are just, a lot of people, what I'm saying, truthfully, a lot of people know they're not going to be a part of it. A lot of people know that they don't want to be a part of it. Because sadly, they want to be a part of a Christian-looking group. You know, what happens when you're the Hebrew of Hebrews? What happens when you're the Essene of the Essenes? What happens to that person that has no quarter, that has no place, that has no one? Who cares about them? No one, because nobody's even trying to make the mark. Nobody, you know, it's like just like the heavyweights, right? You're sitting there and you're pumping weights. You got 500 pounds. The guy next to you does 3. There's no motivation whatsoever for you, right? It's like, come on, man. And he's like, I could care less. I did 3 pounds. Like, that ain't nothing. I don't care. There's no motivation. You don't feel like you need to do anything else for the day. You're done. What's the point? You did more than him. You're always going to do more than him. You go the next day and the guy does 20 pounds. He's like, well, I improved. I just did 520. Yeah, but, you know, that's what you're doing over there. And this is what I'm submitting, that a lot of churchianity, assemblies, if you will, are doing? Nothing. There's no love. There's no caring. There's no support. There's no assembly. The only people they care about, if you pull up in a Mustang convertible with the top down with green lights flashing, they're like, ooh, brother. Oh, nice truck. Oh, brother. You pull up in the 1989 Ford big old club wagon that's rust down the side. They're like, oh, can you park that around the back? What is that? That's an ugly van. Yeah, I call it squeaky. Appreciate it. Is that your van? Yes, it is. Oh, well, okay. What does the scripture say about this? What does the scripture specifically say about how we love? But again and again, it doesn't matter where you go. I've rarely found an assembly that doesn't do this. Almost everyone you go to, it's what you're driving and what you look like is how you get treated. And before I had the beard and wore all this, when you come up in the suit and tie, it's just like a car salesman. It is. You ever go to the car lot looking like dirty and oily? They don't want to sell you nothing. They don't even want to follow you out to a car, right? Like, this guy ain't got nothing. Look at him. He's filthy. Why didn't he get a job? Oh, my gosh. Get away from him. Wasting my time. That's what the church, a lot of the so-called church is doing to people. Oh, my gosh. Look at that guy. What's he got going on? What's up with that? Oh, whoo, boy, he needs to read his Bible. And how many of them people saying that same garbage can't find you one verse that tells you to chop your hair off. Can't tell you one verse to chop your beard off. Can't find you one verse that says this. Pastors, I've asked them. You find me a verse that tells me to chop my beard off. Tell me a verse that says to get behind your pulpit, I have to do what you say I got to do. And I'll show you verses that says you're supposed to wear linen clothing. You're not supposed to have holes in your clothes. You're not supposed to have this and that. Right? You're not supposed to have these ripped up jeans talking about you're the pastor of the place. We're the New World Church. Look like somebody drug you down the road. And the kids pick up on it because they love it, and how many people love it. But the scriptures are specific. It's amazing that so-called churches do the opposite of what the scriptures say to do. Right? Anyone who does not love does not know Elohim, because he is love. Wow. That's a whole dose for a big bunch of churches, is it not? And trust me, I'm not just saying this. I go to churches, and I know exactly how these people act. So much so that I might start videotaping some of it. I got friends that wants to do things and videotape because she has been so harassed and bothered and put out of church. I'm surprised she ever wants to even go to one again herself. I really am. And Hebrew roots, Arkansas, people that love, want to live in the woods and hide in a tent. But that love seems to dwindle and fade real quick when you ain't a part of that program. And notice that doesn't say this anywhere in here. It doesn't say if you're not part of their clique, if you don't dress like they do, if you don't go where they don't, if you don't eat at Dairy Queen, right? None of that is listed here, is it? None of that. Anyone who does not know love does not know Elohim, because Elohim is love. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love conquers a multitude of sins. It doesn't matter what people have done to you. It doesn't matter what people have wronged you. It doesn't matter what they've said about you. Some people will say things just because they're ignorant. Some people will say things because they've been hurt. Some people will say things because that's just their nature. They just love to backbite and stab and argue and cause chaos. But that's not love, right? That's not what it says to do. This is not what it tells us to do. So, we'll go back here and see. Trying to switch it back and forth, right? Right, right. To do, yeah, yeah, altar of church. And that's really what needs to happen. I believe. I'm not, wasn't a big fan of it when I first heard about it in a way, but to a point. And after going to these churches, they do need to be audited. They do need to have, but that's why most of them are the way they are, honestly. They're the way they are because they have no disciple, they have no apostle. And if they did, they would very quickly learn what love's really about. And I'm just, I'm just going to hit the nail on the head. You go to a church and you tell them, look, your crowd looks like Mickey Mouse crew. It looks like worse than Romper Room up in this place. And it does. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to lie. A lot of these churches, when you go to them, everybody looks different. And it doesn't matter if it's a Baptist, a Pentecost, or a Hebrew Roots Sabbath Assembly so called church. You go there, and everybody's different. How can anybody be taught anything? They are lacking discipleship and love. This is love. To teach someone is love. It just is. If you don't believe that, then don't teach your children nothing and see how many get ran over, get burned up, and die because of stupidity. Pure stupidity kills. If you don't think it does, look around. Look in these other countries. These little kids walking around with AK-47s and they blow their head off because nobody told them, point that away from yourself. Don't pull that trigger, it's loaded. All these loving, kind things that might sound stupid to a lot of people are really loving, kind things, right? You have to teach your children. And Yahweh's trying to teach us, but who's listening? How many rebellious children are out there? And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And this is where I'll go back to what I was saying. You thought I lost track, didn't you? So I'll go back to, if we did this right, the apostles would set the churches. They would set the assemblies, and they would choose a person in charge, a man in charge that would know how to take care of business, right? That's right, some good old Clint Eastwood stuff up in there. Not particularly, but still, you got to have a man of authority. You got to have someone that will lay down the law and keep the law and teach others to keep the law. And this is why no matter what church you go to, everyone looks different. Some has a beard, some's got a scraggle beard, some's got a goatee, some's got ripped jeans, some's got t-shirts, some's got muscle shirts. And then you get to the women. Some got barely anything on, some's got ripped clothes, some's got, you can see through their clothes, some's got, headgear on, some don't. And, well, what gives? I mean, shouldn't there not be a uniformity here? Should we not be teaching something? It's amazing that you go to these places that you think would really be on fire, and they look horrific. And sadly, the so-called Hebrew Roots Sabbath keeper churches look worse than the Sunday churches. At least the Sunday church has a standard of women wear dresses, guys wear jeans, shirts, or suits and ties. You don't yet see women running around, not any place that I've been. I'm sure they might be doing something like this in New York or LA or somewhere, but I've yet to see too many women run around in a suit and tie. And the guys run around in dresses. Right? I mean, how can we get this, but we yet don't seem to get it? And the more we lower it, the more that we drop it, what happens? I submit to you, we're we're destroying love. We're destroying the church. We're destroying the assembly, and very few want to do anything about it. Let all that you do be done in love. I mean, how much, you know, how much more can we say? And again, if you love your brother and your sister, and you see some lady walking around with some ripped up clothes on, other than asking her if you're homeless, especially in assembly, do you need some clothes? Do you need something? And it might sound rough, but you shouldn't wear that. You shouldn't present yourself to Yahweh as some whore. You just should not. And the same thing for guys. I mean, you're talking about, no, men should not be up there in muscle shirts and skinny jeans before Yahweh looking like a male whore. They just should not. I mean, we'll just leave that for what it is. But I mean, it's horrible. Some of these places you go, and it's like, what is this? Do I need some dollar bills? What are we doing here? There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. Fear is not what you see in a lot of places. Oh my gosh, if you don't come to the altar tonight, you're going to die and go to hell. Oh, if you don't do this, if you don't do this. Oh, and they fear people into it, right? It's a feardom which don't last. You fear people into doing these things, the rapture theory and all these other theories of their fear, right? Their fear to get you to do something. But that ain't the way it works. It doesn't work in fear, because after you get over the fear, you didn't get raptured, you didn't die, this didn't happen. Now what? Right? Now what? Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love conquers a multitude of sins. Above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. If we're not careful, we are missing the love across the board. We're missing so much of the love because nobody wants to teach it. Love can hurt, right? Love can be brutally honest. You can love someone and they can think you hate them, right? Well, dear, guess what? I just don't feel this anymore. I'm just not a part of this anymore. I know you've been my girlfriend for 2 whole weeks and all this, but I think we're going to have to see other, right? You don't love me. You don't. But if they didn't love, if they didn't care, they would continue that on for selfish reasons. They would continue on into something that would not be loving, kind, and would be even more devastating down the road, right? So why do we love? Why should we love? I know this is a big question of today, right? Right now, today. Why do I have to love? Why should I love? Nobody loves me. Nobody cares for me. I go, we love because he loved us first. There's your answer. No matter what has happened in your life, no matter who's abused, talked, whatever's happened, we love because Yahweh loved us first. Because he chose us, because he chooses us, because he sent his son, because we have hope to be redeemed, because he is. And he loved us first. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. I think we know that all too well, right? You start poking somebody in the side, eventually they're going to bite. Eventually they're going to say something back. Usually they're going to get upset and they're going to say something right back. But what does that help? Who does that help? And especially in this, again, we have to learn to love one another. We have to learn to love the world. Forgive them for they don't know what they do. They just don't know. And if you've been outside your house and you've been to Walmart or any other place for a very long period of time, you can see these zombies don't know what they're doing. These people are dead and they're walking dead, and some of them know it, but some of them don't. They're making horrific decisions. Some of them don't even know how to think anymore. Their mind is just gone. Simple questions, not even hard ones. Simple things. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from Elohim, and whoever loves has been born. Oh, I've been born again. And cuss you out on Tuesday. I've been born again, but I'll defriend and right? I'll block you in a minute. I don't even want to talk to that guy. That guy there, oh, he just irritates me looking at his face. Right? But they're born again. They're saved and sanctified. How many times you heard that, right? I'm born again. I'm on my way to heaven. Wait for the rapture and all that nonsense. Whoever loves has been born of Elohim and knows Elohim. Sadly, folks, there's a lot of people that don't know Yahweh. They don't know the aspects of Yahweh. They don't know the 7 Ruach, the spirits of Yahweh. They don't even know the Ruach of Yahweh. They don't. They sure don't know love. They don't know wisdom. It's sad, really, when you think about it, when you start working with people and dealing with people and you don't want to deal with them in the first place and you find out they're just babies and they're still on milk. And that's fine. Don't get me wrong. People, oh my gosh, look at this guy. Don't get me wrong. I love babies. I love baby milk. Right? But what we have to understand is that grows into a child. And the child learns, and the child stops the baby milk. And then we can stop and get some hamburger meat. And then eventually we can stop and get a steak. And we can grill a steak on the grill, and we can both sit there and eat it and go, wow, that was good. So don't get me wrong. There is people that need to learn. There's people in places that just don't know how to deal with life, how to deal with different aspects of life, right? But what we have to understand is love and how to will and deal that love. Husbands, love your wives, just as the Mashiach loved the church and gave himself up for her. Ephesians 5:25. There's a lot of times what we find out is we are missing love. We are missing the love mark drastically. I mean, if we don't know how to love one another, then what are we doing in the first place? Let me see here. Yeah, those who don't follow him are dead. That's right. I mean, they're dead. They're spiritually dead. Exactly. Let the dead bury the dead. I mean, and that's the point here. That we're not, and I think we use a lot of time. We use a lot of resources. We use so much because, like I said, like the scripture said earlier, we love and we believe, right? We probably shouldn't, but we do, right? We love and we believe. Within that loving, believing, we end up getting hurt. We end up getting another mark. We end up getting another little notch, right? You go somewhere and you teach them and they love you. And then usually it takes about 2 to 3 months. And then they don't seem to love you near as much as they loved you. And then they start to hate you. And then they kind of don't want you around. And then once they've learned and got a little bit of wisdom and gleaned, They really don't care if you come back or not, right? Those are dead. Those people are dead and they're just seeking wisdom. They're just seeking a knowledge. It's the same thing from the garden. They're not seeking love. They're not seeking the true wisdom. They're not seeking the aspects or anything from the Creator. What they're really seeking is what? Their own self, right? What they can get out of it, what they can share with others, what they can go to work and tell somebody, what they can share on, you know, Zoom Night Live or whatever they call it. But the problem is you have to love. You have to show love. You have to, and sometimes when you don't want to, right? Sometimes we can say, "Oh man, I love you, brother. Oh man, I love you." And it doesn't mean it's fake. It means that you will do what you say you will do, right? People say, "Well, I love you. You just met me. How you love me?" Well, I just do because you're my brother, because you're my. All right, you keep that thought. Come back with that in 6 months. Come back in that in 3 months. Come back with that next year. Because you may not love me the way you think you love me, especially when we start reading the scriptures and you don't want to live it. But that, again, that's the difference. The people that talk a talk, you know what I'm saying? It's that talking the talk and walking the walk. If you talk the talk, then walk the walk, right? If you're going to be street, then be street. If you ain't, then be ain't. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you're going to do it. But, yeah, I mean, that's one of the hardest things is loving the enemy. Loving and caring. But that's what we have to do. That's what we have to show the world. That's why, you know, when we go places, there's a smile on your face, and there should be, and they don't get it. They think you're taking something, probably. What are you on Prozac, bro? What are you doing? You know what's up with you? Why's your life so? And my life ain't the happiest life, right? A lot of times, a lot of things, we just don't get to do a whole lot. Sometimes I think we forgot what fun was somewhere. You know, we're trying to find it again. But with all that being said, is you don't display that to the world. You don't let the world know. Never let them see you sweat, right? You bring your best when you're out in the world. And even if you don't feel like it, sometimes that's the best witness you can give to somebody. You know, I still love going to the checkouts because there's a person. Not doing it myself and ringing up twice and asking a person to come take that off because it scanned it twice or any of that. There's a person there and you can react with that person. That person can see you. You can ask them, how's your day? How are you doing? Is there anything I can do for you? You look down. You look happy. What's going on with your life? It may be 30 seconds. That may be the only time you ever see that person again. But what impression did they have? That's a loving, kind person, or that's just, you know, they really, you know, they really look funny. They might have really looked funny, but hey, you know, what can I say about them? That they, you know, at least they had some loving kindness. At least they did something. At least, you know, and if you've ever had a terrible bad day, if you've ever had a problem, if you've ever had that and somebody said, hey, how you doing today? And it melts your heart, makes you want to cry almost because somebody asked me how I'm doing today. And we all know life is life, and we're not promised tomorrow. And the older you get, you know, the moms and the dads and the kids and the this, people get sick and problems happen. Well, guess what? So are they. I mean, how many times on Facebook people ask for somebody to pray for them? They're in the hospital. They're here. They had a car wreck, this, that, and the other. And some of them are not believers. Some of them are just worldly as worldly. But you know, if they ask you to pray, it means something, right? If they get a hold of you, they must know, hey, that might be a bearded seat wearing guy, and I may not want to go sit with him at a restaurant and talk to him in public. But when I'm in the hospital and want to get a hold of God, when I'm in the hospital, I want to know, can he get a hold of his God? Maybe he, and I think if you've ever been through anything, I think we've all been there, right? It don't matter who prays for you, what they're saying. Get in here and get some prayer on. If you have any faith, let's pray, right? That's the kind of love we need to be showing the world. That's the kind of stuff we need to be showing the world that, hey, I love you so much you might be my enemy, but I think it's in your best interest to call. I think it's in your best interest to get a hold of me, right? Not because of me, but because I know the Creator. I've had people that hate me, tried to demise me, tried to get rid of me, tried to do everything to me, but yet a storm comes through and they call me. Me? What are you calling me for? You tried to throw me off the horse on my head. What in your mind would make you call me? Love. Love. See, that's what it's all about. If you can have your worst enemy call you and say, "Hey, I need some help," you've won. That you've done something. You know, I mean, I ain't gonna say you won, but I mean, you've won in an aspect. You've won a battle. You've done something. We know we won until the very ending of this, but that's the way it should look. That's the way it should be. And again, I'm not bragging, praise Yahweh, but that's when the defining moments come. You can hand out cards. You can put it on a 3x5 card. You can put Yeshua loves you, Yahweh loves you, whatever, and hand it to somebody, or put it in a doctor's office, or put it wherever. Put it at the weight meeting. Put it wherever you go to, right? And say, look, Yeshua loves you, and you never know who might get that. I was talking to a guy not too long ago, and because of this, people ask. People say, well, I got to go knock doors and witness and all this. Some of the greatest witness can be right here. Right there. And again, it's not bragging because of me, bragging because of the Creator. And he said that he found this name in a Bible. He found a card in a Bible. Can you believe that? A card in a Bible. Yeah, there you go. Under the wiper blades at Wally World. For sure. I mean, you can put out, especially in certain times, like December, what's coming up, Ishtar, what they call it, right? You can put some stuff out and you can get people to think, because they're all in the mood of this, that, and the other, and they're accepting. They're input, Stephanie, input, right? It's tell me something I don't know. And they get that way at certain times of year. And amazingly, you can turn around and go talk to Santa Claus in front of Walmart and tell Santa Claus that, look, dude, you know what you're doing, and you can tell them about it. And some of them will tell you, get away from me, and some of them will tell you, wow, really? Well, I have to check that out. I have to look at that. And whether they do or not, you just gave them the information. You just told them, right? Right. You just told them of what to do, right? So essentially, yeah, you're just like that. You're telling them, no disassemble, right? Right. No disassemble, Stephanie. No disassemble. I mean, there's so much into this that we can do, and we can find aspects, we can find ways of showing them that love. And I truly believe if you love even the world, the world don't love you. The world don't love me. I know that for a fact. And how do I know that? Well, we got what? 3 viewers? So, but You see what I mean? The If we was of the world, this would be Sabbath Night Live, 50,000 people, 100,000 people. We might have a stage. We might have some little, dancing people and all that worldly thing. And there would probably be people trying to get into a building and trying to get all these things. But that's the world's way. Who in the world would send their son to save you? Would we do it? We gotta have to ask ourselves, that's a lot of love. That's a whole lot of love to send your only begotten son. It doesn't say he had 5 more. He didn't, he didn't say he went and had 5 kids and he said, oh, that one there. He said his only begotten son, the only one. And to watch that and be a part of that and be, and then for Yeshua to sit on that stake and take it. He didn't have to take that. Can you imagine to take all that and have people spitting and flogging you and beating you and then denying you? Who? I don't know why people are so bad on Paul. What about Peter? Didn't he deny him? I don't know who he is. Who's that guy? Right? But I mean, Yahweh forgive me, because what would we do in that? If that was Yeshua and he was your best buddy and you was being discipled by him and he just went and got crucified. I mean, we can all say what we want to say. But when they come and said, do you know him? Would you be like, if I say yes, I'm going to get crucified, aren't I? If I say yes, what's going to happen to me? I mean, think about that. It's almost stunning in some aspects to think of what he went through and what happened. And then at the end to say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And that was a truth, was it not? Do you think them Pharisees, you think them people really thought he was going to come back? You think they really thought that was the end of this? The same thing that the world thinks. It all ended back when. It's all ended here. It's all over. The love's over. This is all over. But when Yahweh comes back, when he makes it right, they're going to get a big surprise as well, right? And a lot of them are going to find the other side of the love. They're going to find the wrath because they never accepted the Lamb. Right? That's what the Passover is all about. Accepting the Lamb or face the lion. And sadly, it's not our choice. It's their choice, right? So what we have to do is just say, hey, it's your choice. It's what you do. It's how you live your life. It's what you do. But please accept Yeshua. Please accept the blood. Please do Passover. Please do what he says to do, right? Yeah, I mean, if we don't, then we're kind of begging for it, right? It's kind of like saying, well, I just ain't going to take out the trash, and what's my punishment going to be? It's like, dude, stop. You don't want what's coming. I don't care. I ain't taking out the trash, and who's going to do a thing about it? First of all, you're 5, right? And there's a lot of people can do something about it. And, I mean, we have to understand the Creator and what he set forth. And to truly love him, So in closing, what we see is what? If you love me, keep my commandments. From the words of Yeshua HaMashiach himself. What commandments was he talking about? What did he say he came for? Didn't you know I'd be about my Father's business? What's his Father's business? Yahweh. Who made the commandments? Who sent the commandments? Yahweh. So how could he disobey his Father? How could he go against his father? How could he change what his father put in motion? He could not, could he? Because if he did, he would be the anti-Messiah. He would be the antichrist, not the Messiah. He would be against what he was sent to do. And nowhere did he say that, right? So I hope this has helped. I hope it's edified. But folks, we need to keep that love. We need to learn the love. We need to know the love. And we need to share it. And if it's your first time ever hearing this, then please learn about the love. Or contact us if you need to pray, repent, healing, anything that you need. You know, all we have to do is call upon the Father and proclaim the Son, and everything's gravy from there, right? As long as we do it in love. And sometimes, again, that love may look and may be chastisement, but love is love. So until next time, may Yahweh bless you. May His kindness shine upon you. May He grant you shalom. Shalom, and thank you very, very much. Shalom. Thank you much for watching. Shalom, my brother. Shalom and blessings. Yahweh bless you all. Love one another.